All right, we start where we always start with our baseball dudes. Say hello to DraftKings contributors Kenny Ducey, Garion Thorne, and RotoWire's Erik Halterman. Guys, this is MLB Price Check. So which players do you like for tonight's MLB slate at the following price ranges? Let's start with a pitcher at 8K or up. A stud pitcher. Kenny, where are you looking?
Yeah, this is the Garion Thorne tribute answer because I'm going to send my heart out to you, Gary. And Robbie Ray, $9,200. That's right. A Toronto Blue Jay, one that I thought I was pretty convinced that he was bad. And I think everyone was too. The Robbie Ray has been sneaky good lately. He has the Miami Marlins as well. He's got a great matchup. They have the second highest strikeout rate against lefties. Robbie Ray, he's going to get you strikeouts. That's the one thing he's done all season long, top 14% in the league. In strikeout rate, 31.5% of hitters going down. And the Miami Marlins as well down there in WRC plus to lefties, really to all-handedness. And I think that just is my biggest thing here is that the Miami Marlins have been really struggling to hit the ball. Robbie Ray misses a lot of bats. I think this is a recipe for yet another good start for Robbie Ray. And he's gone over 27 DKFP in 3 of his last 4, last start against Baltimore. Kind of a clunker, still struck out 5. So I like his chances here of at least turning in, 20 fantasy points.
Robbie Ray, 9,200, fourth most expensive pitcher. Garion, what do you think?
Yeah, this is great. I'm not biased now. I'm just accurate because Kenny agrees. Look, I do think Robbie Ray is going to be the chalkiest pitcher, which, you can take that into consideration on a slate that's only 7 games. Maybe you go with Trevor Rogers and zig when everyone's zagging, but at the same time, the Jays just don't strike out. So it's not necessarily the best matchup for someone like Rogers, where with Ray, Kenny mentioned his rough start his last time out against the Orioles. If there's one thing the Orioles do well, it's hit left-handed pitching, and that's what they've continued to do. And it's what happened against Robbie Ray. So the Marlins are not the Orioles. They have struggled immensely with southpaws so far this season. They actually have the highest strikeout rate against left-handed pitching in the National League at 28.7%. They've got an 87 WRC plus against lefties. They just have not done well against southpaws. And the last time Robbie Ray saw the Marlins, less than a month ago, 6 innings, 1 earned run, no walks, 9 strikeouts. I think you're probably looking at a similar line for tonight's game.
All right, Erik, where are you going? Pitcher at 8K or up?
Yeah, Robbie Ray is my top 2, but for the sake of hashtag content, I will talk about my second guy, which is Trevor Rogers. I do think this is the 2 most exciting pitchers. I think you got to like Ray a little more because he faces the Marlins and not the Blue Jays, but Trevor Rogers is just such a good pitcher that he may justify making up that gap. He could not be more for real, despite the fact that his sample this season is only 14 starts, but that 1.87 ERA, okay, maybe he doesn't deserve quite that, but 250 FIP. I mean, if he falls back to that range, I think we're still pretty impressed with that for a guy in his second season, especially when he had a 6.11 ERA last year. But even last year, he was basically this guy or close to it. He struck out 30% of opposing batters last season while walking 10%. Strikeout rate of 29.7% this year is a near match. He has cut 2 points off that walk rate. So I guess he's slightly better, but he was very close to being this guy despite some very bad batted ball luck in a small sample, giving him a really high ERA. So I still think Ray is the smarter play given the opponent, but I think Rogers is completely playable even against the Blue Jays.
All right, let's talk about hitters now. Somebody who's over 5K that you're interested in. Garion, plenty of options to choose from here. Who are you going with?
Yeah, someone right at 5K, Yordan Alvarez. We talked a lot about the Astros on yesterday's show, and they were underwhelming in a pretty good matchup. But the great thing about playing the Orioles is you get another great matchup the next day. You always get opportunities to overachieve, and Thomas Eshelman has only made 1 start in 2021. He survived it, but the underlying statistics of that start were just chilling if you're an Orioles fan. He only had a 7% swinging strike rate. His zone contact rate was 95.2%. If you can't put the ball in the strike zone and generate some swings and misses, you're just not a major league pitcher, and you're not someone who's going to survive against this Astros lineup. So Alvarez is someone who has obviously 70, 80 grade power. He's someone who can hit multiple home runs on any given night. So his upside is super high. He's also pretty hot right now. He's got a 158 WRC plus in the month of June, so he's swinging it pretty well. Left on right matchup. That's something you always like. So I think Alvarez is a really, really good option in the middle of that Houston order tonight.
All right, Alvarez, only 5K. Erik, are you in a similar price range, or are you going to pay up for one of these stud hitters?
I'm going to go up a bit, up to 5,500 for Matt Olson. Olson in previous years was quite a good hitter, but a somewhat flawed one. He was, your classic high power, low average slugger. There's a lot of those guys. He was one of the better ones, but not last year when he hit just 195, striking out 31.4% of the time. This year, does everything. He's cut that strikeout rate almost in half to just 16.2%, which is career low, I think, not counting like a 10-game sample bit in his first season in the league. So striking out basically half as often as he did last year, and has seen his batting average jump all the way up to 303, which is easily a career high. He hasn't sacrificed any power to get there either. A career high 15.3% barrel rate. He's homered 5 times in his last 10 games. So he's suddenly looking like one of the league's premier hitters. So I'd love a guy like that against a pitcher like Mike Foltynewicz, who's got a 5.59 ERA. He doesn't strike guys out, just 15.9% strikeout rate. So Olson will have plenty of chances to make contact against him, and he allows a lot of contact in the air, just a 36.7% ground ball rate. So I think there's every reason to buy into everything Olson's doing this season, especially tonight.
All right, Kenny, who are you looking at as a stud hitter that you want to pay up for?
Yeah, I was pretty prepared to talk about Matt Olson as well. I can co-sign on Matt Olson. He just hasn't stopped hitting, almost 14 fantasy points per game over his last 6. And that's not the product of one big outing. His lowest outing was 9 DraftKings fantasy points. He's just continued to hit the baseball. I know I'd rather probably have him against a left-handed pitcher. He's actually weirdly better against lefties than righties. But yeah, I mean, Mike Foltynewicz, 44.4% hard hit rate is not going to scare you off. But I can give you a couple other names here, both from the Kansas City Royals, 2 high-priced bats that I like, and it's Whit Merrifield, $5,200. He has 13 hits in 7 games. I know that no one cares about hits anymore. But I mean, that's going to get you fantasy points, and that's exactly what this guy has done. He even homered a couple starts ago against Nate Eovaldi, and he's going up against Michael King tonight, a guy that is just really allowing a ton of hard contact, a ton of hits, and just a ton of bombs. So Yankee fans don't like him for a reason, and he's been a pretty brutal pitcher. I also like Sal Perez here as well, $5,100. I don't mind at all going to those high-priced those high-priced Kansas City Royals bats in Yankee Stadium where the ball can fly.
All right, let's talk about value bats here. Erik, where are you looking for some value?
Yeah, I almost think we can skip this section for however long it takes for Wander Franco's price to rise up to a reasonable area. He's just a free square at this point. He costs the minimum still because I guess the DraftKings algorithm just takes a bit to catch up to these rookies. I'm not sure how quickly he's going to rise. I think we saw Jared Kelenic rise by a little bit after a hot start and then crash back down. But for people who are worried that Wander Franco is Jared Kelenic, they're not really in the same category of prospect. Kelenic is your normal good prospect who could break out right away or could struggle. The projections actually had him as a significantly below average hitter, and he ended up even worse than that in his small sample. Whereas for Franco, he's, the kind of guy you get once or twice a decade, a Vlad Jr. level prospect where you expect him to be really good right away. Not necessarily current Vlad Jr. right away, but the projections, the bat has Wander Franco as a 115 WRC plus already. So he's already a solidly above average hitter. He costs the minimum. I don't even care who he's going against. As long as he costs the minimum, start him even against Jacob deGrom. I wouldn't even start thinking about looking elsewhere until he gets up near 3,000. I mean, you saw what he did last night in his debut. Homer, double, scored a pair of runs, great defense. This is who he is. He's not going to do that every single night, but it shouldn't surprise us at all that he's successful right away. So he's effectively 50% off. I don't think there's any reason to look elsewhere at the position.
All right, Kenny, where are you looking?
Yeah, of course. I actually literally wrote down he's the free space in my notes. So yeah, he definitely is 80 grade hitter, 60 grade power for Wander Franco. I can't recommend anybody else, but I mean, I'll try anyway. Chas McCormick, $3,300 if you're looking for another really cheap bat. Garion laid out how bad Tom Eshelman is. When you look at his minor league stats, I mean, this guy has just never been able to get hitters out at any level. So I don't understand, why you'd ever shy away from targeting him. He should be hitting second here for the Astros. He's been either hitting second or seventh, but against the righty Eshelman, I think that he should be hitting second. And 24 DraftKings fantasy points in his past 3 games. I mean, you can't ask for much more at $3,300. A guy who's going to hit second against a terrible pitcher who's, been able to present you a pretty high floor. So, Wander Franco, you're going to get in your lineups, and I think he's going to be like 60% owned. But, I mean, that's an exaggeration. Maybe not. And McCormick, though, I think is another guy. If you really want to go cheap, $3,200, I think is a good price.
Gary, and you looked like that 60% was maybe.
It might be. Look, I'm going to play him, and I'm going to talk about him, but it's funny because Erik said it doesn't matter who he's against, and that's true. If he's going up against Jacob deGrom, you're still going to play him at 2K. But the great part about tonight is he's going up against the anti-Jacob deGrom. He's going up against Garrett Richards, who is awful. Like, Garrett Richards has some pretty bad stats, and he's got some pretty bad expected stats. But if you watch Garrett Richards, you just get this like feeling in the pit of your stomach that it should be so much worse. He's got a 5.62 expected ERA for the season, but his last 4 starts in particular have just been a particular type of bad. In that span of time, he's given up 71 batted ball events. 66.2% of those, so 2/3, have come off the bat with an exit velocity of at least 95 miles per hour. So he is just getting hit so hard. And again, batted ball events don't count the 4 guys per 9 innings that Garrett Richards walks. Like, it's really no surprise that every time this guy is on the mound, there is traffic on the base path. So Wander Franco at 2K, not only are you getting a generational talent for just $2,000, the absolute minimum, but he's batting second, and he's probably guaranteed to get 5 plate appearances in this game. So he could be 60%. I would say he should be 100%. Like, lineups should start with Wander Franco, and you should work from there.
I love it. All 3 of you agree. All right. Finally, let's look at the DK Sportsbook. What's your favorite bet in the MLB tonight? Why don't you tell us, Kenny?
Well, yeah, I mean, we kind of talked about it earlier, but I really like the Toronto Blue Jays -124 against the Miami Marlins and Trevor Rogers on the road. Look, I know that, if this were at home, right, the Toronto Blue Jays is probably closer to -140, and I know Trevor Rogers is a very good pitcher, but come on now. The Toronto Blue Jays are 8th against left-handed pitching. They've really heated up over the last couple of weeks. They have the 6th or 7th lowest strikeout rate against left-handed pitching, and that is really going to come in handy here against a guy that really relies on swings and misses, one of these new types of pitchers that does allow hard contact. I mean, even Garrett Cole does, right? But when he gets to swings and misses, there's no contact involved there, and that's exactly what Trevor Rogers has relied on all season long. I don't think that he's going to have the same type of success, and I think that the Toronto Blue Jays keep rolling here. And don't forget about the Miami Marlins offense as well. They cannot hit left-handed pitching, or really, I think I could get most of those hitters out as well. So yeah, give me the Blue Jays.
Gary, and your favorite bet?
I'm going to go with the Athletics money line. Right now it's -141, which is kind of surprising as it opened at -155. I was thinking this was going to be more like -170, -175, just considering that the Athletics are a much better team than the Texas Rangers. But things seem to be moving the other direction, and I'm okay with that. Erik was talking about how bad Mike Foltynewicz has been so far this season, and he's been exceptionally bad in his past 8 starts, starts in which the Rangers are 1-7. Foltynewicz in that span of time has a 6.64 ERA. He struck out just 11% of opposing hitters in that span of time. And you've got an Oakland offense that comes into this game ranking 5th in baseball in WRC+. The Rangers are also just bad. They're a terrible team. They're a terrible offense. They don't have a good bullpen. Like, there's nothing redeeming about this squad. They are 1-7 their last 8 games as a home underdog. So even a split where sometimes people go, oh, you have to bet a team at plus money at home. Not when it's the Rangers. They're not good. I will just take Oakland to win this game at a price that I'm actually surprised is as low as it is.
All right, Erik, your favorite bet, what is it?
I'm looking at the over in the Astros-Orioles game, over 9.5. It's at -120 right now, but I think it's a pretty safe one. The two teams are averaging 9.7 runs per game, so all they need is an average performance to hit the over, which I think they can do. Um, this game in Baltimore is in one of the more hitter-friendly parks in the league. It's specifically the second friendliest for homers, according to StatCast Park Factors, and I think we could see quite a few of those tonight. It's already been talked about on the show how shaky Thomas Eshelman is. You know, there's an archetype of pitcher who doesn't strike guys out but still has success. Usually that takes really low walk rate and quite a high ground ball rate. Eshelman has one of those, 6.5% walk rate for his career, but he's a low ground ball guy, 34.6% ground ball rate. So he's going to give up a lot of contact in the air, and he's giving up not just a lot of contact, but a ton of contact, a strikeout rate of just 12.6%. I think even those guys who have the elite ground ball rates typically don't have success when you're striking out that few batters. Against the Astros, that's a lineup that could hit the over all by themselves. But I do think they'll get some help from the Orioles. The only worry here is how good is Jose Urquidy. Has a 3.65 ERA on the season and just a 3 ERA since the start of May. But even in that good stretch, his FIP is up at 3.88 on the season, just a hair below average in strikeout rate, a very good walk rate at 4.4%. But like Eshelman, lots of contact in the air, just a 32.1% ground ball rate. So in a park like Camden Yards, all it will take is, 1 3-run homer, and I think the Orioles have contributed all they need to hit this over.